Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Hare Krishna. I think I'll begin.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Please let my respectful obeisances.
Yes, please accept my humble obeisances.
Yes, Maharaj. Everybody has joined, Maharaj. Yes, we can
Really?
please start, Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
All right. Are you able to see the slideshow?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome everyone again for our Bhakti Vaibhava Unit 6, and this is we're studying today chapter number 2 of the second canto. So we'll look first of all at the connection here with chapter 1. So from Srila Prabhupada's purport, he mentions Sukadeva Goswami cites a previous authority to verify the potency of meditating on the universal form. So you'll remember yesterday, Sukadeva Goswami was advocating meditation on the universal form, meditating on the Virata Rup as the first step in self-realization. So Sukadeva Goswami is continuing here. He said that formerly, prior to the manifestation of the cosmos, Lord Brahma, by meditating on the Virata Rup, regained his lost consciousness by appeasing the Lord. Thus he was able to rebuild the creation as it was before. So here we have the example of Lord Brahma meditating on the Virata Rup. Lord Brahma had he was forgetful of his previous. He was forgetful of his position. He wanted to do the work of creation, and he'd lost his consciousness. But he was able to please the Lord by meditating on the Virata Rup. And then, by meditating on the Virata Rup, it's mentioned in the verse how he took to Buddhi Yoga. And with Buddhi Yoga, as described in Bhagavad Gita, vaya vasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana, that way he became fixed on the service of the Lord, and he was able to develop the service to the Lord, which he wanted to do for the Lord. By meditating on the Lord, he became empowered to do service to the Lord. So that's how the second chapter begins, with the example of Lord Brahma, how he meditated on the Virata Rup. And then Sukadeva Goswami will continue to speak more to Maharaj Parikshit, and encouraging him in detachment from the material existence. He will describe about what the mood of a renounced person should be. He will talk about complete detachment from everything material. And he'll speak very, very strongly, very powerfully about how a person is actually expected to behave in the renounced order. So we'll be looking at that. Then after hearing from Shukadeva Goswami about detachment, then he will speak about meditation. To actually meditate on the super soul, one has to put aside everything material and focus. Then one can focus on the super soul. So that meditation on the super soul will be described. And then there's two different processes by which one can meditate on the super soul and achieve success. Here, one process will be given in verses 15 up to 22, which is the rapid process, directly going back to God, directly going out of the material existence. So that will be described. And then we'll hear text 23 up to 32, we'll hear about another process and a different way in which one can achieve that kind of elevation, not going directly out of the material world, but making a more gradual ascent, looking at the different types of existence in the higher levels of the planet, of the universe. As one goes out through the universe, the yogi can enjoy looking at the different conditions of life and different places in the universe. So that's a gradual ascent. And then the conclusion of the chapter, we'll hear Sukadeva Goswami speaking to Maharaj Parikshit again, giving him some answer to his question about what to do, what to chant at the time of death. So coming back to this first verse, here you see the forgetfulness of the living being, beginning from Brahma down to the lowest insignificant ant, is a tendency which can be counteracted by meditation on the Virata Roop of the Lord. So from Lord Brahma down to the lowest insect in the material existence, we're all guilty of this, and we have forgotten our spiritual nature, and we've fallen into the illusion and identify with the body and the material world. So that forgetfulness can be counteracted by this meditation on the universal form. So Prabhupada writes, and as soon as this forgetfulness is removed, the vaya vasaya buddhi, as mentioned here and in Bhagavad Gita 241, follows at once, right? 241. Those who are on this path are resolute in determination, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, right? That's vaya vasayatmika buddhi. So it follows that when you have that fixed consciousness, so this ascertained knowledge of the living being leads to loving service to the Lord, which the living being requires. We want to make any progress in self-realization, we have to have that loving service, the mood of being the servant, loving servant of the Supreme Lord. So this way, this is the connection with the second chapter from the first chapter. This is how it continues. And then it goes on, we're going on. Sukadeva Goswami is going to speak about, he wants to encourage Maharaj Parikshit in detachment, that don't be enamored by the material world. You're not losing anything by giving up the material world. Sukadeva Goswami is concerned that maybe Maharaj Parikshit is lamenting or feeling sorry that he has to leave the world, that he has to give up his body. Maybe he's feeling bad about it. And he may be thinking even about going to higher planets, that if he has to leave here, maybe he should go to higher planets. Because in the Vedas, there's a lot of things in the Vedas about going to the heavenly planets and enjoying life in the heavenly planets, the beautiful women there, and the Somaras, and all the other comforts and long life which is there in the heavenly planets. So people can be attracted to these things. So Sukadeva Goswami he wants to encourage him not to think about what the Vedas offer, but think about going back to Godhead. So in this way he's speaking, and he talks about, well, Prabhupada has written here, the way of presentation of the Vedic sounds is so bewildering that it directs the intelligence of the people to meaningless things like heavenly kingdoms. The conditioned souls hover in dreams of such heavenly illusory pleasures, but actually they do not relish any tangible happiness in such places. So in this way, Sukadeva Goswami wants to discourage Maharaj Parikshit from being attracted to anything in this material world. Right? As a fish out of water. As a fish out of water. The fish just wants to go back into the water. So the thing we should just want to go back to Krishna, go to the spiritual world. Conditioned souls, they just want to enjoy it. They're thinking, material world is so nice. We're so happy here. Just like the fish is happy in the water. So conditioned souls are happy in the material world. And Sukadeva Goswami speaks, well, the path going. First of all, he talks about the world of names. The world of names. You know, we live in a world of names. You know, you have BMW, Mercedes, Lexus, all of these different names, brand names, nice cars and Rolex watches and Apple computers, all of these things, so many names. We're living in this world and we identify with a lot of these names. So Sukadeva Goswami speaking about this, he says, for this reason, the enlightened person should endeavor only for the minimum necessities of life while in the world of names. He should be intelligently fixed and never endeavor for unwanted things, being competent to perceive practically that all such endeavors are merely hard labor for nothing. So this way Sukadeva Goswami, speaking very strongly, wants to encourage Maharaj Parikshit to fully embrace this mood of detachment from the material world and have no regrets about it. He should be intelligently fixed and never endeavor for unwanted things. Wow, just think how we endeavor for so many unwanted things. So then text number 3 up to text number 7 describe the path of renunciation. And we've picked out some of the important elements from these verses, from Srila Prabhupada's purport, text number 4 and onwards. So basically what's happening is Prabhupada is pointing out the futility, the uselessness of all these endeavors in the material world, just to accumulate luxury items and try to make our lives comfortable and secure, that it's all going to end in failure, and nothing can save us from the inevitable destiny which awaits all of us in this material world. And so Prabhupada describes it very nicely. He talks about the jugglery of names, and nothing but a bewildering creation of the elements of the material world. So a devotee is not interested in all of these things, because ultimately, Prabhupada said, they're just like bubbles in the sea. All of these things are just so many bubbles. The bubble is created by the sea, but a few moments later, the bubbles are burst. So in the same way, all of the things which we endeavor for, our property, our bank balance, our family members, all of these things, they're all very temporary. They're just part of this illusion, this world of so many names. You know, our family members, they all have names. And we have also even our pets. Somebody has dogs. Somebody may have their own horse. Somebody may have a farm with many cows and so on. But it's just so many living entities with different names. So this is the material world. And we have to be careful how we use our time in the material life. So particularly the endeavoring transcendentalist shouldn't be captivated by this material world. And it's not, the world is not here just simply to gratify our senses, but it's meant as a means to help us to get out of this material existence. So we listed many points here. I think you could go through the purports yourself and pick out the relevant points if you like. But as I say, the real purpose behind these purports is to encourage us not to be illusioned by the material energy, but to develop our attraction for spiritual existence and to be fixed on the real goal of life, which is to develop our consciousness of Krishna and go back to Godhead. So we ask you that you could reflect on your own experience and consider how the Lord makes arrangements for your maintenance. We see in the material world that somebody is working very hard and they may be struggling for their maintenance. And somebody else, they're not working at all, they hardly work at all, but still they maintain themselves very comfortably. So, do you have any experience like that? How Krishna makes arrangements? I personally, of course, I've been living in ashrams for more than 50 years. So, all the arrangements I've saw are in relationship with maintaining our ashrams. But certainly Krishna makes arrangements for the ashram to be maintained. When I joined the Krishna consciousness movement in 1971, we were maintained, I don't know how we were, just simply by the grace of Krishna. We were renting a property in London. It was a rented place. And we had also Radha Landaneshwara there, worshipping deities. We were about 18 devotees when I moved into the temple. There were 2 ladies and the rest were young men. And to do offerings to the deities, in the afternoon we were supposed to offer fruit. And so we had no money for fruit. We'd have to try to raise money, find someone to could ask someone if they could purchase some fruit to make the fruit, so we could make the fruit offering. And sometimes we would try to sell a book. If we could distribute a book, then with the money from the book, then we would use that to purchase fruit. And in this way, we were maintaining the temple and somehow we managed to keep up the rent, and even we put on festivals. And we had Rath Yatra festival, and we had also the other festivals like Janmashtami and so on. So we saw Krishna was doing everything. He was just making the arrangements somehow to maintain the temple. And then after some time, things started really developing a lot. And Krishna sent George Harrison to purchase a property for the devotees, because we were so many devotees living in a small place that he purchased a huge big house in the countryside in London, just outside of London, Bhaktivedanta Manor, and donated it to the movement. So Krishna made that arrangement. Krishna inspired him from the heart that he should do that service for Krishna. So that was one of my experiences. I don't know, I mean, I think most of you're not living in the ashrams. You're more living outside, maybe maintaining your own existence. Do you have any experience in seeing Krishna make arrangements for your maintenance?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes?
In fact, a lot of times over my career in job, I've seen that a lot of times it seems that, the job might not be stable or might go, but the Lord somehow miraculously arranges for the continuation of the job and the maintenance. A lot of time I've personally seen it.
Oh, very good. Yes, certainly. Krishna helps to make arrangements for the devotees. I saw that arrangement in my own life, that when I was thinking about becoming a full-time devotee, that I was convinced by the arrangement of Lord Krishna that this was really what Krishna wanted me to do, and he arranged the situation to make the whole thing much easier for me. Although it was difficult at first, but somehow Krishna just made some adjustments to make the whole thing very easy for me, that I could come out of work and just join and become full-time devotee. Anybody else like to contribute to this?
Krishna Maharaj, I want to say, Maharaj, 4 years back I used to work. I worked for 12 to 15 years. And after that I decided, and my health was little down, so I decided to quit my job. And I don't know, Maharaj, I'm by the mercy of Guru, Vaishnavas and Krishna, I don't know, but yes, I get the help from my parents and from the work that I did, and I'm in a much better position that I was when I used to work. I used to hanker for spiritual activities, and I didn't want to serve materialistic people, but somehow I had a job, so I used to do. But once I left, I can see direct mercy of Krishna, that whatever happened in my life materially, it was really low, but spiritually it was always uplifting, and all the things whatever happened, it took me near to Krishna, and I'm very thankful to Krishna. And you please bless me that may Krishna be always be merciful upon me, and I may grow.
Oh, thank you, Maharaji. Thank you, very nice. Krishna's maintaining you, made arrangements. Very good. Okay, so we'll go ahead. Let's see. What we're going to do now, we're going to have some group work, because I want each group will be given a verse to look at. You can see there are 3 groups mentioned. So how many people do we have today? Is it 21, is it?
Maharaj, 24.
24 today, okay. So 3, 6, So we could have two Jagannath groups. There'll be Jagannath A and Jagannath B, Baladev A and Baladev B, and Subhadra A and Subhadra B. Like that. So 6 groups and 6 fours, so 4 people in each group, right?
Okay, Maharaj.
Groups of 4, and two Jagannath groups. And the Jagannath group, we want you to look at verses 3 and 4, and we want to hear about, how will you respond to a magazine reporter who is investigating an alternative lifestyle? It's an alternative lifestyle magazine, and they've come to interview you at the Krishna Conscious Center, and they want to know about your lifestyle and how are you going to respond based on verses 3 and 4, talking about Bhagavat. They want to understand about Bhagavat Dharma. What is this Bhagavat Dharma which you are proposing, which your society is propagating, Bhagavat Dharma? So the reporter is coming to interview you. So we want to hear from you about it. And then the Baladev group is going to talk about verse number 5, and they're talking to the congregation, particularly about the duties of the householder and the sannyasi's duty. How are you going to present to your congregation about the duties of these 2 different groups, the householder and the sannyasis, based on verse number 5. And then Subhadra group, based on verse number 6, the Lord arranges maintenance of devotee to the gross materialist. So preaching to a gross materialist or a group of gross materialists, and you have to present to them how the Lord arranges the maintenance of devotees. So that is the Subhadra group. Is it clear what you have to do? Okay, so we'll have 6 groups, 2 of each, Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra, and you each have your different assignments. You have to read through the appropriate verse, which is in relation to your question. All right, so we'll give you 15 minutes to prepare for this. Or is that too long? Can you manage in 10 minutes?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, so try 10 minutes. If not, then we can always give you more time. So take 10 minutes initially, and let's see if you can complete. I will see you here in 10 minutes.
Thank you, Maharaj. Room number 1 and 2 will be Jagannath group, 3 and 4 will be Baldev group, and 5 and 6 will be Subhadra group. I'm just creating the group. Please join the groups.
Thank you.
No? Yeah.
Hare Krishna, 亲爱的古鲁玛哈拉，将顶8年的莲花座，一切荣耀归于您，一切荣耀归于上。
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, I think we can close the groups, Mataji.
Yes, Maharaj. Yes.
How long has it been now?
15 minutes, Maharaj. 15 minutes is over. I was roaming in all the rooms, so they were discussing, but I think it's 15 minutes. Can we take them out of the rooms now?
Yes, you must.
Thank you. Maharaj, just in a minute's time, everybody will be back.
Okay. So welcome back, everyone. So we would like to hear from the two Jagannath groups first of all. So that's group 1 and 2. So who's the spokesman for group number 2? Maybe.
Maharaj, just more 30 seconds. Students are coming.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So Hare Krishna, welcome everyone back. So certainly some of the questions are harder to answer than others. I thought maybe the question given to the Jagannath group is maybe the most challenging. Maybe we'll start with the easier questions first. Let's hear from the Subhadra group. Now there are two groups for Subhadra group. Who are the two spokesmen for the groups?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, myself.
Okay,
from
Prabhu.
Subhadra group.
What group number were you?
Group number 3.
Group number 3.
Right, Maharaj.
I thought 2 and 3 were both Baladev group. I thought 1 and 2 is Jagannath, 3 and 4 Baladev, and 5 and 6 was Subhadra. Harini?
Bhanugar Prabhuji, in which group were you?
I think we are into third group, Mataji, but we misunderstood that, I think.
Okay. Maharaj,
Yeah.
they misunderstood and they prepared Subhadra group work.
Hare Krishna. Okay, now I'd like to hear from the other Subhadra groups.
Okay. Group number 5, can you please tell who all were in Subhadra group, room number 5 and 6? And who is the spokesperson for room number 5?
Hare Krishna Mataji, we are in room in 6th group or 5th group, we can say. And in this group, myself and Radhakesha Prabhu and Arvind Krishna Prabhu maybe.
Who is the spokesperson?
Radhakesha Prabhu, can you please?
Rai Ramanand Prabhu.
Yes? So we want to hear how the Lord arranges for the maintenance of the devotee. How do you present that to gross materialists?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Actually, in this verse directly, it is not given, because here it is said we should worship the Lord which is present in our heart. And but in purport, we can draw some points so we can understand that, like the mother, her child, or basically they manage. Mother basically manage their child. So in the similar way, Lord is our mother, and we are their part and parcel. So in this way, He manages or the Lord maintains us. This is one point.
So it just happens automatically, does it?
Yes, yes.
We don't have to ask the Lord for anything.
Like the mother, we don't need to ask anything. Lord feed the elephant, Lord feed also the small ant. In this way also we can understand.
Okay.
And
Yes.
here also it is given that Lord gives us suffering, so we can incline to the Lord, we can become more dependent to the Lord, we can think or we can understand how they are maintaining us.
All right. Oh, let's hear from the other group, who was also Subhadra.
Yes, Hare Krishna Maharaj. We were in room number 6, Subhadra Guru, and our spokesperson is P. Satyabhama Mataji.
Yes. Yes, Maharaji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So Maharaj, we discussed on a little different tangent. So we were talking that, how we can show that to gross materialist people that how we can get dependent on Krishna. For that, we can try to decimate some knowledge, like Bhagavad Gita classes. We can invite them on Sunday love feast, and we can the 7-day sessions that we have. So we can invite them to the temple for that. We can share our own personal experiences, and they can take. I mean, brahmacharya. You were just the way you were sharing that you were in the ashram and everything was maintained by Krishna. In the same manner, we can introduce them to the people who are to the brahmacharis and to the temple devotees who are actually working in the temple and are dependent on the on Krishna for their maintenance and serving selflessly. That ways we can influence them, we can show them, and that ways we can teach them that how we can actually be dependent on Krishna.
Oh, okay. So bringing them to the temple and showing them the working model.
Yes, Maharaj. Yes.
All right. Do you think that would affect gross materialists? Would they may come and say, you people are just parasites, you just live off society?
But Maharaj, if we show them that we are actually working for the social causes as well, and we are giving back to the society also, like we have Food for Life and other programs that are going on. So it is not like just being dependent on the society that way. We are giving back as well, contributing back as well.
Oh. So you're not presenting us as a spiritual society, you're presenting us as a welfare society concerned with feeding the poor or something, Food for Life, That's a welfare program. Is that really a spiritual program?
No, but then Maharaj, if we get them for the Gita classes, and if we engage them in more discourses, and if we share our own experiences that have taken care of that Krishna has taken care of us in those manners, maybe that ways we can also influence.
Yes, I think you want to put more emphasis on the spiritual program.
Yes, Maharaj.
We don't want to give people the false impression that we're just we're doing welfare work, we're feeding the poor. I think that of course people like that, but that's not our real business. People who do that, they attract the attention of the public, but it's not actually our real business as devotees. We're meant to give spiritual knowledge. We're meant to teach scriptures. We're meant to teach the importance of simple living and high thinking. So you have to be careful how we...
If you allow me,
Yes, okay.
should I add something to this?
Yes, please.
Maharaj, I was also in the same group, room number 6, with P. Satyabhama Mataji and with other two devotees. So Maharaj, exactly. We have so many things in ISKCON temples to show to gross materialists people. And like Harinam Sankirtan, we off and on we move on the roads and streets with Harinam Sankirtan. We distribute prasadam, and of course the sound vibrations, the transcendental sound vibrations, we have to give them. Then in our temples, like P. Satyabhama Mataji said, we have so many things to offer, like classes in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam classes, then Gita classes, then again Kirtan, and then Artis, then Prashadam. Of course, like you are saying that we have to give them spirituals. So in ISKCON temples, we are full of activities always. And all the things are being maintained by the Krishna only. Like you gave your example only, like in your times in 1971, how George Harrison came into existence at that time and how he helped. So similarly, like we are we are here in New Delhi and we are in Swan Rohini Temple, and how our Rohini Temple uh, grew day by day for last 20, 12, 13, 14 years now. And so many people are now attached with our temple and through different programs like that. So we have so many things to offer to them. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, thank you. What about that Prabhu who was also took up that question but was not group 5 or 6? Is it group number 3?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes, would like to hear from you.
Okay, Maharaj, thank you. Yeah, Maharaj, so we noted down few points that Lord assured the maintenance of every living being from ant to elephant. So if we talk about the human beings, we should not be worried about about our future, because it's already being assured by Lord. And he always worry. People generally worried about what will happen in their future and how they will maintain themselves. So that can be the person should not be worried about that, and he should the person should be devote more time for the devotional services, and rest will be taken care by the Lord himself. And we are into illusion like a mirage, and so we try to get association of devotees, so that we should not be, so that we can learn how to come out from this illusion, and we can focus on the real thing of devotional services. That will help us to just avoid the illusion. And we are on the lap of Krishna, and we should always be happy, and we should not be worried. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Yes, I think the main point that we want to impress on the materialists is that as devotees, we're not idle. That devotees are very active. We're engaged in all kinds of activities. So the Lord reciprocates where he sees that the devotees are genuinely active and engaged in his service, then the Lord does reciprocate for him. It's not that we just simply sit and wait for people to come forward, but we go out and we make propaganda. We do our best to try to, of course, sometimes this gets criticism. People think we're too active. You can't please everyone. But our business as devotees is to go out and make propaganda and disturb the minds of the people. And gross materialists, they have no faith in God, but we see God every moment, every day. We see him sending people to help us to build temples and to maintain temples. We see Krishna taking care of our devotees. Sometimes devotees are in difficult situations, and sometimes our society may even be attacked and under pressure from the materialist people, but somehow we've been able to come out successful. And we can give examples like in London, there was an attempt to close the Bhaktivedanta Manor, and it was very difficult. We went to every court, the Supreme Court, and we lost everywhere. And we just had to go to the streets and just keep protesting. And somehow Krishna arranged that we were able to settle the thing peacefully, and we were able to keep the manor open to the public. And so it was a great victory for the Krishna consciousness movement. And then again, another thing, in Prabhupada's time, there was a deprogramming movement, that we were accused of programming people. We were programming people to Krishna consciousness, and devotees, a couple of devotees were charged with mind controlling and programming, and they went to court. And in one day we won, and the court came completely in our favor. And Prabhupada said, Prabhupada was so happy, he said, it's a great victory for the Krishna consciousness movement. So there are examples where we overcame a lot of odds, very great difficulties, but somehow Krishna helped to maintain us and to protect us. And we saw similar things in India, where Prabhupada was buying the land in Juhu at Mumbai, that Juhu land. Actually, they'd given up the land, but Prabhupada somehow got it back again, and he fought and he kept that land and he got it and he built that wonderful temple which is there. So that was another great victory. And you can read also Shyam Sundar Prabhu's book. He's written a book, Chasing Rhinos with the Swamiji, and he describes different rhinos which they were chasing, many different things which seemed impossible. The general saying, when you go hunting, hunt for a rhino, don't hunt for rabbits. If you hunt for rabbits and miss, people will laugh at you, but go for something really difficult. And Prabhupada did, and somehow Prabhupada would hunt the rhinos and they would come out successful. So many examples where Krishna is maintaining the devotees and helping this Krishna consciousness movement. All right, so we'll go on and let's hear from group number 4, I think it is, about the Baladev group. We want to hear about how householders and sannyasis, what are their duties, and how are you going to present this to the congregation based on text number 5. Right?
Hare Krishna.
Yes?
Yeah. Should I start? Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, we made a presentation. I'm going to show to my screen. Mataji, can you allow us to share the screen?
You have a PowerPoint presentation? Okay.
Yes, Maharaj. So, visible? Okay. So, we actually, distributed 2 different, themes for or meanings for in this purport. One is to what are the duties of the sannyasis, and then what are the duties of the householder. So the renounced order is meant for keeping, for 2 things. One is for contribution, and second, doing this contribution fearlessly. These are the 2 things which we could drive from this purport. What contribution we could see in this purport is contributing something substantial to society, not depending on the earning of the householders. Acharya's examples has been given for the benefit of the human societies. Acharyas left behind them immense literature of transcendental importance. And those who cannot give any contribution should not go to the householders for food. For such mendicant, asking bread from the householders are an insult to the highest order. So the contribution is like the meaning and the objective of the sannyas order is to give the contribution to the society. Like our acharyas have given, left behind the immense literature for the benefit of the whole society. They need to go for the alms and for the food, not for themselves, but to purify the householders. And that was the contribution point which would drive from the which could be driven from the purport, that the meaning is for contribution. And second is that doing this fearlessly, which we could see from the purport. A sannyasi should always live alone without company, and he must be fearless. An example of Srila Haridas Thakur has been given, in which it was written that he was a great devotee of Lord Shri Chaitanya, who used to live in the cave, and with the snake, and that all fearlessness of Srila Haridas Thakur has been given in the purport. And he should never be afraid of living alone, although he is never alone. The path of renunciation is recommended for acceptance by one who is fully accomplished and fully purified in his existence. So the fearlessness has been given in the purport, that how contribution should be given with a fearlessness of the sannyasis. The keeping faith in God, contributing, and keeping faith in God who lives in everyone's heart. And then the householder duty, which has been given in the purport, is very simple and very, treat the mendicants as their family, treat the sannyasis as their family children, provide them with food, clothing, without being asked. So that is the basic, duty of a householder has been given. Whenever they see sannyasi, they should treat them as their family children, and they should feed them without being asked. They should not ask the householder that they need something. They should understand that how they should treat the sannyasis, and that should provide them food and clothing, without being asked by sannyasis. That is what we could drive from the purport. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Okay, thank you. Do you think this is a fair example? You want our householders to live alone? Shouldn't the sannyasis give association to other people? You want them to go away on their own. You don't want them to associate with people. Generally, sannyasis, their duty is to give association to people. But you're talking about living alone, being away from the world. So do you think this is relevant for our Krishna consciousness movement? You want to tell the congregation our sannyasis should live alone?
No, the example which was given, or the meaning which could be derived from the purport, is that when they should associate with the householders, not for the whole time or not for the whole day. They should go to like the example of Shukadeva Swami or the sannyasis have been given in the Bhagavatam, that they should go to the sannyasis home till the time that the cows are milked. So not for so much time. They should associate with them for their benefit, for such time, and for the benefit or for the contributing society, for literatures and for other things. They should be alone. They should that is what you could others can also add if they could at this point.
Yeah, we have to be careful about talking about this kind of thing in relation to our own society. Sukadeva Goswami and Haridas Thakur, they're examples of very, very special personalities. We cannot expect sannyasis in ISKCON to imitate that kind of level of behavior. How Sukadeva Goswami would act, and Haridas Thakur, how he would, but you cannot expect that a devotee in ISKCON should also act like that. That would just simply be imitation. No, that is not, of course, what we could actually hope to achieve in our Krishna consciousness movement. So there are some extremes there. And principles is good. The principle of depending on Krishna is important. Yeah, it's nice you made the point that the sannyasis don't need to beg for anything, but it's a duty of the householders. They should want to help to offer, to give something for the sannyasi. That's appreciated. And the sannyasi himself, he doesn't have any desires. He's not going to ask for anything. That's a nice point. Now, not every sannyasi will be writing books. Some sannyasis may be particularly gifted, and they may feel empowered, and they may like to write books. We see, for example, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't write any book. Although he spoke a lot, he did give a lot of instructions, and he instructed his followers to write books. So writing books is certainly a good contribution, and other people, they can, generally the work of the sannyasi is to make propaganda. So if he is able to write books, very good, but still he can make propaganda by preaching Krishna consciousness and by encouraging the Sankirtan movement. So that should be the business of the sannyasis. And the householders, their duties is to help to maintain the other ashrams as much as they're able. Of course, not every householder will be in that position that they're able to help. Sometimes it's difficult for householders just to maintain their own family. And so to maintain somebody else, that's not an easy thing. So sannyasis don't they don't come begging to people. They're thoughtful. They don't want to be a burden on others. That's important. All right. Does anybody else have any comments on this point about householders and sannyasis? If you read the verse, if you read text number 5, you can, wow, I mean, what Sukadeva Goswami wants people to do, I mean, it's quite extreme. Do the trees not exist for maintaining others and no longer give alms in charity? Do the rivers, being dried up, no longer supply water to the thirsty? Are the caves of the mountains now closed? So Sukadeva Goswami is encouraging renunciation, total dependence on God, not depending on people and not looking to people for supporting him, but depending on God, that by the arrangement of Krishna, he's provided everything for our needs. And Lord Ramachandra had that opportunity to experience that when he went into exile. When he went into exile with his good wife and Lakshman, they went in for 14 years into the forest, and they were dressed in tree bark, and they were happy. All right, so let's hear from the Jagannath group. We've got the Jagannath group still to cover. Who's in group 1?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay.
So our task, Maharaj, was to give to a lifestyle magazine about Bhagavad Dharma. And so our reply or our thing to them is that actually we are the real alternate lifestyle organization who has a unique proposal for their readers. So normal lifestyle means running after money, opposite sex, maintaining family, and so on and so forth. Whereas our motto is simple living and high thinking. So in our society, we try to live as simply as possible and the bodily needs are done as much as is needed for the maintenance of the body, and we have a higher spiritual goal which we seek, and we seek questions like from where the soul has come, what happens after death, does God exist, and how to go back to Godhead. And our understanding is that human life is more important. It is meant for spiritual upliftment, not for sense gratification, which we can see is available in the animal species also. So this is the basis of our philosophy, that how human life is a combination of matter and spirit. And by the process of Vedic knowledge, we direct our energies, utilize our energies for from liberating the soul from this contamination of the matter. And we also say that in this whole universe, we see how everything is made in such a manner where every human being is troubled. So it could be due to material different natural cause, it could be by somebody else, other human, or it could be my mind giving me trouble. So we see everybody is troubled, irrespective of rich or poor or male or female or his nationality. So our whole philosophy is based not upon some wishful thinking, but on ancient scriptures, which gives the science of soul. They tell us about the God, about the material nature. So based upon that, we seek a higher purpose and not waste our time in sleeping or sex indulgence and things like that. Rather, we seek a higher goal, and we live a very natural lifestyle. We don't kill animals. We take things from nature which are intended for the human use. So you will see that we have very much alternate lifestyle. And we also, in our organization, there is no bar on age, sex, or nationality. Anybody from any age, sex, or nation can come and join our society and seek a higher goal in the life. Hare Krishna.
Oh, that's a nice point at the end. I like that point, that you opened, make the claim that our society is open to people of all designations and all stages of life and so on. Yeah, good. Just to look at the verses, text number 3 and 4, Sukadeva Goswami talks about not endeavoring for should not endeavor for the unwanted things, being competent to perceive practically that all such endeavors are merely hard labor for nothing. And so you people don't believe in working? Do you work?
We work very much. We have people in our society who are doctors, philosophers, lecturers. They run businesses. So we work, but we see that the goal is not sense gratification, that the goal is to seek the higher knowledge. So to maintain ourselves, whatever is needed, we do that. But that in itself is not our goal.
Okay. And I see here in your text, Sukadeva Goswami says we don't need pillows. We should just use our arms. So do you live like that? You just sleep on your arms, or do you have pillows on your bed? Or do you have a bed? He said you don't even need a bed. He said you can just lay on the ground.
Yes. So both options are available in our society. So those who want to live an austere life, for them, the simple ground and the arms are available. And those who find it difficult because of the conditioning, so they can sleep on the bed and a pillow, no problem. So those things are secondary. Primary thing is the goal which we are seeking.
All right. Yeah, and so you're saying it's up to every individual to judge his own standard of renunciation?
Yes, based upon our nature, we can we can use our nature to pursue the spiritual goal. And everybody has a different background. So we give that, we have that broad-mindedness to accommodate everybody. And you can, whether you want to shift full-time in the temple or live in your home and pursue the spiritual goal. So the ways are available. It depends upon us how fast and sincerely I want to pursue my goal.
Okay. Thank you. Very nice.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have another Jagannath group there?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj. We were in the second group.
Yes, Maharaji. We'd like to hear from you.
Okay, Maharaj, a practicing devotee will endeavor for only basic necessities, and they don't run after name, fame, and money, and after the luxurious life. And they don't believe on the advancement of civilization because it brings distractions, disturbances, and it ends up to the war. Whereas the spiritual advancement brings peace and prosperity in the world. So, and if a devotee or if a person is following the Krishna consciousness or is following this lifestyle, so that person will have more time to spend in serving the Lord and the devotees and Guru, Varanga, and they don't have much desires to fulfill. They try to not reduce, but they don't go after the sense gratification. And when there is less or no sense gratification, that means more time for self-realization. And as we know the principle of use of bad bargain. So that is also applied on it. And that means endeavor for the basic necessities, not for the luxurious life.
Okay, but you spoke about spiritual life leading to prosperity, peace and prosperity.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
So, isn't the prosperity, doesn't that mean, that there's going to be a luxurious life?
Because when we want a luxurious life, we put more efforts and more endeavors for that. And because of that, I think the peace of mind is also, it goes away because when we try to fulfill our desires, so the basic necessity, the basic goal of life, what is the goal of life? It's Krishna. So we go away from that.
When? We go away from that? When
we put our efforts and we endeavor for the sense gratification. And the prosperity, the peace and prosperity will come with the spiritual advancement, like no killing of animals, no cutting of trees, and means for our personal use, we misuse the nature.
So can we conclude that Krishna conscious people are not very hardworking, that they don't endeavor for anything?
No, they do work, Guru Maharaj, they do work. They work a lot for the society and for the peace, but they don't encourage the misuse of nature, the killing of animals, and yes.
Okay, so you're not killing animals, but you haven't quite told me yet how you're going to get peace, and you're going to have to work. How do you maintain your existence? You don't have to endeavor, you don't have to work, you don't have to, you don't want to be too much in the material world, but how to get away from the material world? What is your alternative lifestyle? How are you going to live? How are you going to maintain yourself? You still have to eat and sleep.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, for that we'll work. It's like we'll work for the basic necessity. We do jobs, we do cultivate the land, a piece of land. And
in Delhi, you get a piece of land, really? You'll
yes,
be lucky.
Guru Maharaj, because my husband is an agriculturist. So
Oh, really?
that's-
Okay. So you got
And,
some land.
yes, Guru Maharaj. And
No?
for the peace, we can be in the association of devotees, I think, which can actually help us to make improvement or to make progress in the spiritual life and to fulfill our goal of life. To serve
Okay.
them.
Yeah, if your husband's an agriculturalist, you certainly can have a better opportunity of achieving these goals. I don't know how it works for everyone else in Delhi, but okay, alternative lifestyle is there. Let's see. We'll go on. There's another question here. Look at this. Look at these two. So, how would you preach the principles of Bhagavad Dharma in a modern context? You can see the contrast. On the left side, we have these two
Hare Krishna,
followers.
Maharaj.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, sorry, I request you to kindly share the screen once again.
Oh, you're not
We are
seeing
unable
it?
to. Yes,
Oh,
yes,
really?
Maharaj.
Wait, let me see. I don't know what happened. Oh, Krishna. Okay.
Yes, yes, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
All right. So, how would you preach the principles of Bhagavad Dharma in this case? You know, with the two Shivites, or maybe I don't know what they are, Naga Babas or what?
Naga Babas, Maharaj.
Are they? Okay.
Yes, Naga Babas.
So, Naga Babas, you can see presenting the principles of Bhagavad Dharma. You know, you have different extremes of what is Bhagavad Dharma, what is the actual Dharma. So the Naga Babas, they're presenting their lifestyle. They have their lifestyle. On the right side, you see a devotee sitting there addressing a public gathering, presenting the Krishna conscious perspective. So it's interesting to contrast the two extremes, you see. You can understand the Naga Babas, that, well, their lifestyle is not something which is meant for application in the modern context. Although these two men, they look like Westerners, and they're maybe not so old, but their lifestyle is not something which would be particularly attractive to other people. But the principles of Bhagavad Dharma are something which we can present to people. and they're meant to, principles of Bhagavad Dharma are meant to be applicable to people in the modern society. Now, you cannot expect that these two men, their lifestyle would be applicable in the modern society. Of course, we may argue, well, look at the devotee. Is it applicable to, he's dressed in a dhoti. Is that applicable? And he shaves his head and he leaves a thika. Are these things applicable to the modern society? How would you respond to that? Is that part of our preaching and presenting Bhagavad Dharma? Do we want all the women should wear saris and cover their hair and tie their hair up? And well, it would be very nice, yes. That's the Vedic culture. And similarly for the men, it's very nice if they wear dhoti, we don't mind. But even if you don't wear a dhoti, we don't mind. You can still be a devotee. You can still practice Bhagavad Dharma. But certainly the dress does help us a little bit. Just like these two men, their dress, their attire, it fits in with their lifestyle and with their philosophy. And so similarly with the devotee, you want to practice Bhagavad Dharma, there is also a lifestyle, and there's a certain mood which we should have, and how we dress will also help. It will also influence that lifestyle. We may say, well, it's not appropriate. It's, this is Indian dress. I'm not an Indian. I'm not a Hindu. Why I have to dress like a Hindu? So, of course, we will respond, well, this is not just simply Hindu dress, but this is the dress, this is the attire of the spiritual world. We're presenting spiritual culture. We're not just simply promoting Indian culture. We're presenting the culture of the spiritual world. So when we encourage people to wear sari and to tie their hair and cover their heads, and men can shave their heads also, this is the spiritual culture. It's not that we're promoting some particular country or sectarian philosophy. This is Bhagavad Dharma. It is eternal religion. It is Sanatan Dharma. And it's applicable, just like Prabhu said, well, the one Prabhu was talking, he said that it's up to every individual how they practice. Someone may shave their head and someone may not. And someone may wear the dhoti and someone may not. It's up to every individual. Sometimes people, when they're at home, they will put on the dhoti, and then when they go off to work, they'll put on the civilian clothes. And so we don't mind. We don't discriminate against people just on the basis of their dress or their appearance. Prabhupada did sometimes tell people about cutting their hair. He didn't like them to have long hair. And people who wanted to get initiation, they had to cut their hair. They couldn't be initiated with long hair. I think usually Prabhupada had that standard. So he had some standard, because in Prabhupada's time, there were many young men with long hair. So Prabhupada would get them to, cut the hair. Like he would encourage people that be clean and get detached from the body, because we're so much attached to the body. And so doing things like shaving the head and wearing dhoti and so on, it helps you to detach from the material conception of life. And that is the first step of Bhagavad Dharma, to become detached from the body. Any comments on this from anyone? I see most of you are all wearing devotee dress. You're all very nice. Okay. Yes, Maharaja?
I liked one point that just like if we see a doctor, he wears a white coat. If we see a lawyer, he wears a black coat. If we are seeing these Naga Babas, so by their attire, we are able to understand that what they are for. So if we see the person in a dhoti and kurta, generally we don't find, there are even of the total population, there are less than 1% of 1%, those who are devotees who are practicing spirituality. So if those one less than 1% people of whole population of the world, if they were like, as you said, this is the spiritual, this is how people are in spiritual world. So we can, just by our attire, by wearing tilak, and we can represent that we are, yes, we are from like a particular, this is we are followers of Sanatan Dharma. And yes, by if just by doing this, people will come to know. And just by seeing this, if they are really have little bit desire or something, a tinge of it, to come to know about spirituality, so they get attracted and come to us and can talk to us. And by this they can become a devotee after some time, like this. So Maharaj, I was saying that this is really good. This is like a dress. So yes, everybody has dress. So if a sannyasi, if a brahmachari, if any mataji, and if in a grasta a person is wearing like dhoti kurta and saris, matajis are wearing saris. So this is like attire which can attract. And we have already seen that there are so many people like when I know about His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. When he just saw a person with a tilak, he ran after that person, because these things really impact so much. So just wanted to share this, Maharaj.
Okay, thank you, Maharaji. Very nice. Anyone else like to contribute in this? Okay, then we'll have a break for 10 minutes. It's about halfway, so we'll have a break and be back in 10 minutes. Hare Krishna.
是大家的古罗马哈拉讲，我知道了，这两天精神不太好，有一天好，有一天不好，今天就不太好。
所以你需要多念诵，你念诵不好，你应该多加强你的念诵，早的睡，早的起，做好，多看书，多念诵，念诵第一，你先把你的念诵念完以后看书，做好奉献服务。Yes, Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
And the box. Where are you?
I'm in Nigeria now. Right yesterday.
Oh, you're in Nigeria?
Yeah. Where are you now, Maharaj?
I'm in Kuching, Malaysia.
Maharaj, can I talk to you now for like maybe around 2 minutes?
Yeah, 2 or 3 minutes. Yeah, I'm just on a break. I'm in the middle of a class, actually.
Okay, I'll just quickly tell you. Maharaj, I was just checking if I can know when I will be with you. Accordingly, I will make my other traveling plan also because there are some other places I need to visit this year. So if you have some time after your class, you can maybe send a message to me that from this day to this date I should be with you. Then I will put other programs aside. After this, then I will adjust my schedule. That is what I want to just communicate to you, Maharaj.
Okay. Okay, so I'll finish this class and I'll send you a voice message.
Yeah, then if I have to take a visa also, I don't see the possibility, ticket, everything. You just send me a message and I will work on it, Maharaj.
Okay, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Dhanyavad, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, welcome back.
Yes, Maharaj, we are back.
All right, so we'll continue here. Next slide. Our principle should be not to think about our personal maintenance, right? Ajita, the Supreme Lord Krishna, he's maintaining everyone. Yoga Kshema Vahamyaham. And he'll not maintain a person who is fully surrendered to him? No. How it can be? Suppose a gentleman is maintaining so many other children, and he does not maintain his own children? Surely he does. Therefore, our principle should be we should not think about our personal maintenance. We should dedicate our life for Krishna, and Krishna will take care. That should be the principle. Don't be harassed, thinking always how I shall be maintained. That is not the problem. Maintenance is no problem. Real problem is how we shall be fully surrendered to Krishna. That is wanted. From Prabhupada's lecture on verse number 5 of this chapter in New York in 1975. So we have to be intelligent. Not that we just sit back and let Krishna maintain us, but as Prabhupada said, we have to be fully surrendered to Krishna. We have to be ready, willing to serve Krishna in any capacity. All right, so going ahead with this section, this chapter we come more to hearing about meditation on the super soul. So here, in text number 6, serving the Lord in the heart. Thus being fixed, one must render service unto the super soul, situated in one's own heart by his omnipotency, because he is the almighty personality of Godhead, eternal and unlimited. He is the ultimate goal of life. By worshipping him, one can end the cause of the conditioned state of existence. So this is the meditation. And then going ahead, neglecting one's own self-interest. Text number 7. Who else but the gross materialist will neglect such transcendental thought and take to the non-permanent names only, seeing the mass of people fallen in the river of suffering as a consequence of accruing the result of their own work. So Sukadeva Goswami is condemning the materialistic people who are simply interested in enjoying the fruit of the work. And here, more on the duty of a renounced person. The renounced order of life is never meant for begging or living at the cost of others as a parasite. The first duty of a person in the renounced order is to contribute some literary work for the benefit of the human being in order to give him realized direction towards self-realization. Now, not one you know, sometimes we write, but not everything we write is you could say, as Prabhupada says here, it should contribute to the benefit of the human being. And so what is of the benefit to the human being? That could be discussed. You know, sometimes people write things and produce literature which is not so much beneficial to the human being. It varies. There's some discussion. We could discuss that. We won't get into it today, but publishing books is, yeah, everyone should write. Prabhupada encourages all devotees, write your realizations. If you can write your realization, and he said, it may be published, it may not. That doesn't matter. What's important is that you write and write down your realizations, and that helps us to progress. So it doesn't matter whether it gets published or not, but write. Just like Rupa Goswami, when he was writing, he didn't know if that would ever be published. He wrote. They wrote. The Goswamis wrote. They didn't know their writings would be published. So then text 18, we come to meditation on the super soul. Others conceive of the personality of Godhead residing within the body in the region of the heart and measuring only 8 inches, with 4 hands carrying a lotus, a wheel of a chariot, a conch shell, and a club, respectively. So you can see in the illustration the picture of the Paramatma, the 4 arms and the 4 symbols of Lord Vishnu. And so this is how people conceive of the super soul within the heart. So that's text number 8. Would someone like to read from us? Do you have a book there? You have the text? You could read text number 9. Yes, someone?
Translation.
Yeah, just translation. Yeah.
His mouth expresses his happiness. His eyes spread like the petal of the lotus, and his garments, like yellowish like the saffron of the kadam flower, are bedecked with valuable jewels. His ornaments are all made of gold, set with jewels, and he wears a glowing headdress and earrings.
All right. Someone like to read text 10?
Hare Krishna. His lotus feet are placed over the holes of the lotus-like hearts of great mystics. On his chest is the Kaustubha jewel, engraved with a beautiful calf, and there are other jewels on his shoulders. His complete torso is garlanded with fresh flowers.
Yes. And someone else can read text 11?
He is well decorated with an ornamented wreath about his waist and rings studded with valuable jewels on his fingers. His leglets, his bangles, his oiled hair curling with a bluish tint, and his beautiful smiling face are very pleasing.
Yes. Text number 12.
Lord's magnanimous pastimes and the glowing face of his smiling face are all indication of his extensive benedictions. One must therefore concentrate on this transcendental form of the Lord as long as the mind can be fixed on him by meditation.
All right. Thank you. So here is the summary from Prabhupada's purports. Text 12 to 14, talking about the process of meditation. We were hearing the description of the Lord. So here is something on what Prabhupada comments on the process of meditation. So as Prabhupada said, it's meant to fix our attention on something personal, not something void or impersonal. Meditation should be concentrated on the form, either on his Virata Rup or his Satchidananda form, the eternal form. Those who are too engrossed in sense gratification cannot be allowed to participate in archana or to touch the transcendental form of the Radha Krishna. For them, it is better to meditate upon the gigantic Virata Rup of the Lord. You know, sometimes people protest that we have restrictions about who can go on the altar, who is allowed to be there with on the altar with the deities. Sometimes that, you know, we get people complaining that why I can't go on the altar, why this people go on the altar, why I don't get to go on the altar. So sometimes this is a problem. But we have to, oh Krishna. We have to understand the importance of keeping the purity in the form of the deities. Other people, they're not initiated as brahmanas, means that they're not recognized yet as completely fixed in the principles of Krishna consciousness. If you have only had the first initiation, then your initiation is not yet complete. The initiation process is completed with the Brahmana initiation, mantra initiation. So usually the restriction is that only Brahmanas can touch the deities. This sometimes gets controversial. And similarly, studying Srimad Bhagavatam, people should first of all study the first 2 cantos without being free of sex desire, without conquering over lust and so on. We shouldn't go beyond the first 2 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. Some way or other, one must try to re-establish one's forgotten relationship with the Lord in order to gain real happiness of life. Without such meditation on God, all good qualities of the human being become covered, and misconceptions regarding his constitutional position. So this is the main points from Prabhupada's purport on this section of meditation. So then coming up to this next section, we're going to hear about instant liberation for the detached yogi. In other words, he's going to go directly back to Godhead. He's going to give up the body, go right out of the material world. It's not going to go to any other place. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that this is a process followed by the Bhakti Mishra yogi, who have no interest in seeing higher planets up to Brahmaloka. Now that's quite a challenge, you know, when you're traveling, just like when you travel around, oh, you think, oh, let's stop here, let's go and see this place, let's go and look at this place. So especially when you go up in the universe, you go up to the higher planets, you go after Swargaloka, you come to Mahaloka and Tapaloka, Janaloka, Satyaloka, you may be attracted, you may want to go and see there. But so if you do that, then you won't go straight back to Godhead. But these yogis, they're so fixed that they just go straight out of the universe and enter into the spiritual sky. So we have the one group of yogis going directly, and you have in text 22 up to 32, we have the other yogis who are going gradually until liberation. So having spoken of instant liberation, Sukadev Goswami now describes gradual liberation. Krama Mukti. If one desires to attain Brahmaloka or other higher realms in this universe, at the time of giving up the body, one does not give up the mind and senses. Rather, with the mind and senses, one goes to enjoy those planets. So you see the difference? The one group of yogis, they're going direct. They gave up their mind and senses, they gave up everything. They have just simply they're spiritual beings. So they're able to immediately enter into the spiritual world. But these other yogis, they still have their mind and senses. They didn't give up their mind and senses. And you need that to go and enjoy those planets. The higher planets are more subtle, so the mind and senses are there. Desire to be dominated by the supreme predominator. Purport of text 22. All the siddhis mentioned above are features of domination over the world. The devotees of the Lord are not ambitious to dominate a false and temporary phenomenon. On the contrary, a devotee wants to be dominated by the supreme predominator, the Lord. A desire to serve the Lord, the supreme predominator, is spiritual or transcendental, and one has to retain this purification of the mind and senses to get admission into the spiritual kingdom. So Prabhupada is describing the particular nature of the devotee. They have no material desires. They don't want to dominate or control. They're not ambitious. They're not thinking about enjoyment. A devotee just wants to be, as Prabhupada said, dominated. We want to be under the supreme controller. to put ourselves under that controller. Or he says, supreme predominator. So that is the pure mood of the devotee who wants to enter into the spiritual world. We want to enter into the Krishna's own abode. We have to have that mood to be ready to be surrendered and to be dominated by Krishna. Sukadeva Goswami goes on to describe about 3 different types of perfection. So there's one class of people who are the great yogis. They can go straight back to Godhead. And then we heard the other yogis, they're going to go gradually. But there are other kinds of people also. Here we have the karmi who attains a specific planet by dint of pious activities. He attains places in terms of his comparative pious activities. So Bhagavad Gita describes how a person who has acted piously, if he dies in the mode of goodness, then he will take birth in the higher planets. He may take birth in Swargaloka, he may go up even higher. You can go up to those 4 planets which are above Swargaloka, all the way up to Satyaloka, Brahmaloka. So it depends on how much pious activities they've accumulated. Generally, people are going to go to higher planets like Swargaloka, the heavenly planets, where the demigods are residing. And there's a lot of enjoyment there. So people go to the karmi. Karmi means a follower of the Vedas. He's following the Vedic principles. So that person can be elevated to Swargaloka, and he can enjoy the long life and all the opulences. But the jnani, he's above the karmi. The jnani who has attained the place by dint of virat or hiranyagarbha worship is liberated along with the liberation of Brahma. So the jnani, he has given up all kinds of material desires, but he has the desire, somehow he's given up all kinds of desire for sense gratification, but he's still going to go up to the higher, he'll go up to Brahmaloka, Satyaloka, and he can remain there with Lord Brahma in the highest planet in the universe. It talks about he's worshipped the Virat or Hiranyagarbha, and he gets liberation up to Satyaloka. And he cannot go immediately back to Godhead. He has to wait for the end of Lord Brahma's life. And at the end of Lord Brahma's life, when there's annihilation of the universe, then at that time he may go with Lord Brahma, and he may enter into the spiritual world. Then again, there are others. Describe one who attains the place by dint of devotional service, can penetrate into the different coverings of the universe, and thus ultimately disclose his spiritual identity in the absolute atmosphere of supreme existence. So the devotees, just simply by doing their devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtan, Vishnu, like that, they can also go back to Godhead. They can go through the different coverings of the universe, and they can directly enter into the spiritual world. And they will obtain their spiritual identity, their swarup, their eternal form in the spiritual world. When they give up the material body, their spirit soul will enter into the spiritual sky, and they will attain their spiritual form. Either in one of their form will either be in Vaikuntha or in Goloka. And if it's in Vaikuntha, then it will be in Dasharas or maybe Shantaras. But if it's in Goloka, then it will be in Sakyaras or Vatsalyaras or Madhuryaras. The higher rasas are more there in Goloka. So the devotees can achieve that liberation. This is described in text 28, the purport of Prabhupada's, in Prabhupada's purport, text number 28. Something more from Chaitanya Charitamrita, from Adi Lila, chapter 5, text 22. The residents of Brahmaloka can attain perfection in 3 different ways. So even you go to Brahmaloka, there's still different ways by which people get perfection. Virtuous persons who reach Brahmaloka by dint of their pious activity become masters of various planets after the resurrection of Brahma. Those who have worshipped Garbhodakshayi Vishnu are liberated with Brahma, and those who are pure devotees of the personality of Godhead at once push through the covering of the universe and enter the spiritual sky. So even you go up to Brahmaloka, it's not all one. Not everyone's in the same level. Some people, they have material desires, and by their pious activity, they may become in charge of a planet somewhere in the material universe. They may be given that after the resurrection, after Brahma gives up his body and that universe is, then they may be given some place in some other universe. And those who worship Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, they would go with Lord Brahma. They would enter into the spiritual world, into Vaikuntha. And those who are pure devotees of the personality of Godhead, they can go directly. They don't have to wait for Lord Brahma. So different conditions, different devotees. Srimad Bhagavatam text number 30, Prabhupada writes more about hearing and reading are mandatory. When we speak of hearing and chanting, it means that not only should one chant and hear of the holy name of the Lord as Rama, Krishna, or systematically the 16 names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. But one should also read and hear the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of devotees. So very important for us. And then also Chaitanya Charitamrita talks about the unwanted creepers in the course of our devotional service. Maybe some weeds will develop because we're watering the creeper, we're watering the seed of devotion. So in the course of watering the seed of devotion, other things grow up, weeds also grow. So they're described as unwanted creepers. And they're mentioned here in this verse. Nishidi achara kuti nati jiva himsa labha puja pratishtahadi yata upasaka gana. The upasaka gana, these are the unwanted weeds. So some unnecessary creepers growing with the bhakti creeper are the creepers of behavior, unacceptable for those trying to attain perfection. Then diplomatic behavior, animal killing, mundane profiteering, mundane adoration, and mundane importance. All these are unwanted creepers. We want to go back to Godhead. We have to get free of these things. So coming to text 33 up to 37, we hear about pure devotional service, Ananya Bhakti, achieving the Supreme. This is a quote from the Varaha Purana. By my personal desire, I bring my unalloyed devotees to my supreme abode. Placing them on the shoulders of Garud, they return without having to undergo the path of light. So that the devotees are given that special facility that the Lord comes and delivers them because of their unalloyed devotion to Him. Because of their Ananya Bhakti, the Lord is so obliged to them. He says, by His personal desire, He comes and He brings the devotees back to Godhead. And they don't have to undergo the path of light. In Bhagavad Gita, you can read about leaving the body in the path of darkness and the path of light. So those who live in the path of darkness, they come back again in the material world. But if you live in the path of light, then they can go back to go on to the spiritual world. There are many indirect methods for deliverance from the clutches of material existence, but none of them is as easy and auspicious as Bhakti Yoga. The means of Jnana and Yoga and other allied disciplines are not independent in delivering a performer. Such activities help one to reach the stage of Bhakti Yoga after many, many years. As already explained in the text of Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, either direct Bhakti Yoga or the means which ultimately culminate in Bhakti Yoga, without any tinge of fruitive activity, constitutes the highest form of religion. Everything else is simply a waste of time for the performer. Srila Sridhar Swami and all other acharyas like Jiva Goswami agree that Bhakti Yoga is not only easy, simple, natural, and free from trouble, but is the only source of happiness for the human being. From the purport of text number 33 in this chapter. So, although the process of meditation on the Supersoul is being described here, it is not being encouraged. What is encouraged is that people should do Bhakti Yoga. The Bhakti Yoga is practical and it's easy compared to these other processes. We may say, oh, it's very difficult to do Bhakti Yoga, but it's much, much more difficult to do this other process, meditating on the super soul, giving up the material body, then giving up first the gross body, and then giving up the subtle body, and elevating oneself out of the material world. Is very difficult, very challenging. But the path of bhakti, Srila Prabhupada described simply recreation. Chanting and dancing, eating prasadam, that this is a system of recreation, joyful. But the other processes, simply so much difficulty. All right, so what did we cover here today? We talked about the connection between the first and second chapter. Remember, we spoke about Brahma's forgetfulness and how by meditating on the Virata Rup, how by meditating on the Virata Rup, then he became empowered again to perform his duty, to take up the work of creation. We explained the main points of the second chapter. The chapter began with Sukadeva Goswami talking about the importance of the human form of life and the need for practicing renunciation and detachment from sense gratification. And then he spoke about the two different, meditation on the super soul. And after describing meditation on the super soul, he described two situations. One is where the yogi goes directly back to Godhead, and the other is where the yogi he goes gradually out of the material world. He wants to visit the higher planets. And then the process of achieving the supreme through mystic yoga. The process was simply meditating on the super soul, contemplating the supreme, giving up all attachment to the material world, going through the different angas of yoga. So then we had the gradual ascent through the higher planets, and three types of perfection. Three types of perfection. One type was where the person would take birth again and become in charge of a planet somewhere within the universe. Another one was he would go with Lord Brahma at the end of Lord Brahma's life. He'd go with Lord Brahma to the spiritual world. And the other one was the devotee who would go immediately to the spiritual world. He didn't have to wait for Brahma. So there's three kinds of perfection. And then we had also spent some time talking about principles of Bhagavad Dharma in a contemporary context. Presenting Krishna consciousness in a contemporary context. It's important for us to consider how we can properly present this Krishna consciousness movement to impress upon people that it is practical and it is certainly something which can greatly benefit their life, make their lives happier and more meaningful. Sometimes people think, oh, so many rules, so many regulations, oh, you can't eat this, you can't eat that. People don't understand the value, they don't understand the importance of rules and regulations. But rules and regulations are certainly necessary, and the more society is advanced and civilized, the more there will be rules and regulations. From Adi Lila, we cannot discover the mysteries of the Supreme Lord by our mundane endeavors. They are only revealed by His grace to the proper devotees. These mysteries are gradually disclosed to the various devotees in proportion to the gradual development of their service attitude. So service attitude is very important, cultivating that service attitude. The mysteries of the Lord, mysteries of His birth and His appearance. There are many mysteries in relation to Krishna, Lord Krishna and his different pastimes and his appearance, His disappearance. It's all very mysterious. So we cannot understand these things by our own endeavor. But it's only by the mercy of the devotees these things can be gradually revealed, according to how we develop that service attitude. his existence, referring to the Paramatma, can be realized by one who has the single qualification of submissiveness, and who thereby becomes a surrendered soul. The development of submissiveness. The development of submissiveness is the cause of proportionate spiritual realization, by which one can ultimately meet the Supreme Lord in person, as a man meets another man face to face. So this idea again of submission, humility, submission, surrender, service attitude, these are crucial in our process of devotional service. We want to be surrendered souls. We want to understand Krishna. We have to qualify ourselves. And the qualification is that submissiveness, that surrender. And in proportion to our surrender, Krishna reveals himself. And we can meet Krishna face to face. All right, so that's the end of this chapter. I don't have any more on that. Are there any questions? Anyone has any questions?
Maharaj, I want to ask one question. It's regarding service attitude. Maharaj, sometimes we have desire to serve, but because of limitations, we are not able to serve. So how to understand that service attitude one should have, desire one should have, that's another thing. But practically how to do it?
Well, it begins with chanting the holy name. Everything comes from good japa. If we have the right mood in our chanting of the holy name and our performance of hearing and chanting, then this will help us to develop that submissiveness which is required. We have to very intensely desire to chant the holy name. As we mentioned yesterday, we spoke about that eagerness, that making that effort to actually want to chant the name purely and with attention, without offense. So this will help us to have that mood of submission, which is important for us to develop the mood of relating to Lord Krishna. Understanding our insignificant position in relation to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada would constantly preach to the devotees about our insignificant position. Because we're in this material world and we do have this, we have this ego, we have this false, this ahankar, which is covering us. And it's conditioning us. And we have to somehow we have to get rid of that to actually come to Krishna. So, recognizing our helplessness is something which can help us to develop this submission, that mood of submission, the mood to really want to take shelter of Krishna, to be under his lotus feet and ready to serve Krishna in whatever capacity we're considered worthy. So yes, it's a challenge. We're working against the mind. The mind is the real enemy. Because of the mind, we don't want to submit. We don't want to recognize our helplessness. The mind is rebelling. The mind because of the mind, that false ego is there covering our real knowledge. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes about how lust covers our intelligence and the mind and senses. So we have to really pray to Krishna and develop that gentleness, that humility to want to take shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. All right?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, Maharaj.
Any other comment or question?
Maharaj ji, I want to ask a question. Every living entity has an eternal form in Vaikuntha's and Golok Vrindavan. So could you please throw some more light on this topic, eternal forms in Vaikuntha's and Golok Vrindavan?
Well, we know there are 5 rasas, Shanta, Dashya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya. So in Vaikuntha, the predominant rasa is Dashya ras. Because in Vaikuntha, the Lord is there in his majestic form as Lord Narayan, with the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. Within Vaikuntha, you also have regions, special regions like Dwarka and Mathura, Ayodhya. There are many different planets within the Vaikuntha realm, and the different avatars, different forms of the Lord, they're all there. They're eternal forms. And different devotees, those who are devoted to these different forms, will be residing there with the Lord in that mood of Dasya Ras. Sometimes a little bit of friendship is seen, sometimes, but the friendship is not as we would think of it as equals, but it's friendship with respect. Just as Uddhava is a friend of Lord Krishna, but he's always very respectful in dealing with Lord Krishna. He would never sit on the same level as Lord Krishna. Uddhava was secretary to Krishna. Sometimes Lord Krishna would ask Uddhava, "What do you think? What should we do?" And Lord Krishna also sent Uddhava to deliver a letter to the gopis. He trusted Uddhava that he could give the letter to the gopis and explain to the gopis everything of his Lord Krishna's mood. So that is Vaikuntha. But in Goloka, we see the higher rasas are there. The friendship of the cowherd boys. Now these cowherd boys, it's said they have performed pious activities over many lifetimes, and therefore they're able to play with Lord Krishna in the forests of Vrindavan, just as his very intimate friends. They can play with each other, they can wrestle with each other, they can take each other's food, and they will play games with each other. So this is the cowherd boys. Then you have parental ras, Vatsalya ras, Nanda and Yashoda, Krishna's parents. Nanda and Yashoda, they're on a higher level than Vasudeva and Devaki. Vasudeva and Devaki, they also had the opportunity to be parents of Krishna, but they could not enjoy the childhood pastimes of Krishna, because these childhood pastimes are only for Nanda and Yashoda. Nanda and Yashoda, they are the very dear parents of Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna has very great affection. And among the gopis, there are also gopis who have similarly that mood of being like a parent. There are uncles of Krishna, friends of Nanda Maharaj, cowherd men. They're also like in something of Vatsalya Ras to Krishna. Although they're not directly Krishna's father and mother, but because of their age and because of their closeness and intimacy with Nanda and Yashoda, they also enjoy Vatsalya Ras. And then you have Madhurya Ras. So Krishna has the Madhurya Ras in Goloka, there are the gopis. And Krishna enjoys his pastimes with the association of the gopis. Now in Vaikuntha, there are goddesses of fortune. And there are also Krishna's wives in Dwarka. But they're not equal to the gopis, because Krishna is not married to the gopis. So the wives of Dwarka, Krishna's wives in Dwarka, they are Krishna's wives, but they have children. They have the mood to be the servant of Krishna. They don't consider themselves to be in any way worthy of Krishna, but they consider that it's only by the kindness of Lord Krishna that he's accepted them as his wife. So the wives, Krishna's wives, they're in Vaikuntha, they're in Dwarka, in Vaikuntha. But the gopis, they are in Goloka, Vrindavan. There's a difference between Parakya Ras and Swakya Ras. So Parakya Ras is without marriage and Swakya Ras is with marriage. So there's greater intimacy, greater feeling without the marriage. With the marriage, then there's not so much intensity. But without the marriage, the relationship between Krishna and the gopis, then that is the highest pleasure for Lord Krishna. So Lord Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. He's enjoying himself in relating to all these ladies. Is it clear?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Any other question? Any comment? Okay, if there's no more questions, then we'll stop here today and we'll meet you next weekend, next Saturday and Sunday. And we'll go on to chapter 3 and 4 and 5. All right? Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki. Or Bhakti Vrinda ki.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you very much. So nice, Maharaj.
Bhakti Vrinda.